Exploring the Mind presents What is codependency in a narcissistic relationship?
In this video, we will address a topic always related to codependency, but in this case, the codependent is the narcissist. Specifically, we will focus on why it is so difficult for a codependent to leave a narcissistic partner. We know that when one lives a relationship intensely, whether it is codependent or not, it is always very difficult to end it. We often find ourselves facing questions like, I have invested so much time, how can I start over? Or, how will I find another person, another man, another woman? These concerns are common and generally make the end of a relationship a very complicated process for many people. Before we dive deeper, I want to remind you to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and share it with anyone who might benefit from it. Your support helps us to grow and continue providing valuable content. When it comes to codependent relationships, we have discussed codependency in our first video, and in this video, we will delve into how a relationship with a narcissist complicates things further. Being codependent implies that we will be willing to maintain the bond with the person despite the damage they are causing us. We find ourselves entangled with dysfunctional people who bring us into toxic situations, and despite the suffering they cause us, we struggle to say enough. Why is this? Remember that it is very important to know what is happening to us, because knowing means recognizing. And if we recognize these mechanisms, these situations, we have more power to change them. Even if we have a problem of codependency, and even if we are in a relationship with a narcissistic or toxic partner. So, let's ask ourselves what is at the core of a codependent person's struggle to leave toxic relationships, such as one with a person with a narcissistic personality disorder. Sometimes this difficulty has its roots in childhood experiences. Let's try to imagine or remember when we were children. Our ability to trust our feelings, our inner reality, could have been constantly questioned by parents or reference figures. If this happens for a long time, it starts to become something that slightly scars us. I will give a small example. A child might fall, scrape their knees, feel a lot of pain, and therefore complain, scream, cry, and parents, who generally always try to invalidate what the child feels, start to say, "Oh no, don't worry, it's nothing. You shouldn't complain too much. It's nothing." Or a child who suffers wrongs in a difficult relationship, who feels hurt perhaps by bad words, sometimes even from the parents crying or getting upset, might hear, "Oh no, you exaggerate. You are too sensitive. You get offended too easily," without asking what the child is really feeling at that moment. It is clear that we can imagine that if this type of dynamic is frequent, our perception is constantly invalidated during childhood, and over time we learn not to trust our inner world, our intuitions. We believe that what we feel is not real, that it is not important. This lack of confirmation, of validation from our parents, leads us to develop an inner conflict. That is, on one side, we have an experience that we perceive as real, which is subjective but real for us, but which is not recognized by the important people in our lives. On the other side, we desperately try to get confirmation and approval from these people around us. This is a pattern that repeats in our adult relationships. This dynamic is very important to establish whether relationships are healthy or not. It is therefore important to know it, because it allows us to recognize this dynamic with others and to deal with it. But let's return to children who grew up this way. When we meet narcissistic people who cannot see us and connect with us in a healthy way, our more subconscious part pushes us to desperately seek from them that validation that we never received as children. It is as if our inner child says, "This time I will succeed, I will manage to assert myself, and they will love me." But unfortunately, with a narcissist who is not able to satisfy this need, the script we learned as children simply repeats itself, in which the people around us really did not see us. The same thing repeats with a person with this type of narcissistic personality disorder. The paradox is that our unconscious seems to want this repetition of the script because it makes us feel safer. It is as if having experienced it other times in the past is reassuring, because even if dysfunctional, it is something we know and have the impression we can control. This illusion of control is very important because it is a factor that keeps us in the relationship. As children, when our parents were unable to meet our needs, we developed the belief that if we found the right way to behave, express ourselves, or appear, then we would be seen and accepted. This strategy gave us the illusion of having control over the situation, even though in reality it is not so. We thought that if we just found the right way to be, our parents would finally understand and love us. But of course, this never happened and probably never will. When we enter adulthood and adolescence, the first romantic relationships begin. We bring this script into those relationships. There is no longer the child asking the parents to look at what they are doing, but the thought inside us saying, if I do this, I will have control over the situation. If I am a girl, I think, maybe if I were prettier, if I took more care of myself, if I had longer hair, if I were a bit more seductive, if I dressed better, if I had better manicured nails, he wouldn't leave me. I start thinking I need to change many things about my appearance. The same goes for a boy. If I were a bit tougher, the girl would look at me differently and wouldn't leave me. If I had more money and could pay for more outings, then I would be the one she chooses among many. If I were a bit more flashy, I would make more of an impression. We put into action those patterns we learned in a distorted way during childhood to seek validation. But this time, we no longer do it with our parents or the important people of our childhood, but with partners. This pattern continues in adult relationships, leading us to have a partner who somehow reflects the parental figures, those who did not see us at all. A fundamental moment for a path out of this, to be able to leave a toxic relationship, starts when we look at the situation with more detached eyes, when we have the ability to recognize what is happening as external observers. We recognize what is happening in the relationship and realize that our narcissistic partner cannot see us or connect with us in a healthy way. We understand that we cannot control them. All those things we did as children do not work. By observing from the outside and recognizing the dynamics, we realize that our narcissistic partner is unable to see us and connect with us in a healthy way. Accepting that this is the reality of our relationship is the hardest part of the process of leaving a toxic relationship if we are codependent. Abandoning the idea that if only I did, said, or were in a certain way, then they would love me, is really painful because, as we have said, it has deep and ancient roots in our lives. It is a way of seeing relational reality that we have to change by force. It is like admitting that we have failed, that we are not enough. But at that moment, the real work on ourselves begins. What saves us in this process, in this journey, is learning to love, accept, and take care of ourselves. Stopping the constant self-criticism and self-punishment, and instead starting to be kinder to ourselves, more patient, and more understanding towards ourselves. Only when we learn to validate our inner reality, the one we had even as children, can we truly exit toxic relationships and attract healthy and fulfilling bonds. It is clear that we are talking about a journey that is not easy and requires time. But if we work on it and continue to want to improve this aspect, to change it, working on ourselves with compassion, we will reach a point where we can observe our dysfunctional dynamics with objectivity and without judgment. Only then can we truly free ourselves and open up to authentic and fulfilling relationships. In conclusion, we can say that the reason why people with codependent relationships struggle so much to leave a narcissistic partner has very ancient roots in childhood. The constant invalidation of our inner experiences leads us to develop a deep need for external approval, which we desperately try to obtain even as adults. This pattern repeats and perpetuates itself in our relationships, leading us to try to control and change ourselves to gain the love of a partner who, very similar to our parental figures, is incapable of meeting our needs. Remember that only when we learn to love and confirm ourselves can we truly accept the reality of the situation we live in and free ourselves from the toxic bond. It is essential to work on these aspects. Ask for help from the people we love and who love us, with whom we have a relationship of esteem, or from professional figures such as psychologists and psychotherapists. We deserve to have a happy life, to love ourselves, and to be loved for who we are in a healthy relationship. Abandoning the need to be approved by others and starting to look at ourselves, love ourselves, recognize all the qualities we have and seek someone who sees these qualities, recognizes them, and allows us to live a relationship worthy of the love we deserve.
Let us know your thoughts by kindly leaving a comment and a like. Thank you for spending time with us, and see you soon. Goodbye.